Hey everybody, it's James Hernandez. How's everybody doing? And welcome back to another review video. And today I'm going to be reviewing another anime that I'm going to be reviewing today. And today's anime I'm going to be reviewing is Black Lagoon. Now, Black Lagoon is an action anime that came out in 2006, and it was animated by Madhouse that gave us Death Note, the first season of One Punch Man, as well as Gunslinger Girl, and even like anime movies like Summer Wars. So in this show, this show actually centers on a man named Rock, who actually is a businessman, and he basically has like the worst life in his job because his boss was pushing him around, and then his life changes when he actually was captured by the Lagoon Company, which actually has the likes of Dutch, Revy, and Benny. So after when his boss doesn't really care about Rock being forgotten and basically just being left there, Rock actually decides to be part of the main members of the Lagoon Company. And then and the Lagoon Company actually basically they just fight all these like different gangsters and muggers and all that stuff. And that's where you have the character Revy, who is known for using her guns to shoot all those criminals and just go to a bar like it was nothing. So the first time I watched this anime is when it was on Toonami, and I actually was really interested to watch this anime because when I heard that this show was going to air on Toonami after when this show replaced Soul Eater during the Saturday night program on Toonami on Adult Swim, I thought it looks really interesting, and I actually did heard of this anime right before I watched it. So after watching Black Lagoon, what do I think? Let's find out. So let's talk about the animation for this anime. So the animation for this anime, like I mentioned, is animated by Madhouse that did Death Note, One Punch Man, Gunslinger Girl, Summer Wars, and even Trigun. And the animation in this one is actually really, really good. I think the animators did a good job. And it does look like exactly like what you expect from Madhouse, especially when you look at not just like the backgrounds of the locations in the show, but also like the character designs. And you can definitely tell it's one of those animator designers that did One Punch Man and Death Note even before they did One Punch Man, because One Punch Man, the first season, came out, I want to say in 2015 or 2016. I could be honestly be wrong because I also already reviewed the first season of One Punch Man. So yeah, like I said, I think the animators did a good job with this, and it does look really nice. It looks really beautiful, especially during the action scenes. The action scenes in this anime is actually fast paced and is also pretty violent and pretty bloody because this anime does not shy away from its violence, because this is the anime where it is not for younger audiences. And I was one of those people that actually watched this anime, and I thought to myself, it's so action packed that this is basically like John Wick, even before John Wick was a thing, or even like one of those action movies like The Transporter or like Jason Bourne, and all that, and all those type of like action movies that you have seen. And the action in this is actually really fast paced. It's very creative, especially like when Revy actually fights all these like the Nazi pirates. Is really fun to watch. It's like you couldn't help yourself but just like enjoy the action scenes. That all the stuff that Revy does, it's just for for entertainment purposes. Now, as for the characters, let's talk about Revy. Now, Revy is actually one of the most like foul-mouthed and one of the most like dangerous female characters I have ever seen in anime, because this girl really does have like a rough childhood, which I'm not going to get too deep into because you have to like watch the anime and then you'll understand where she's coming from. But this girl is really foul-mouthed, and she basically is like, is not really shy from like doing all these like crazy action scenes in every single episode of Black Lagoon, because this girl actually would just like use her guns and just usually just kill all these muggers and people. And right after that, she usually just like goes to the bar, and then she actually gets a drink and acts like nothing happens, and she pretty much like doesn't care. However, though, she actually does care about one person in this anime, and that is Rock. And her relationship with Rock is actually very strong, and it's actually really good. Their chemistry is not exactly like, it's not basically romantic or anything, or is like as romantic as I thought, but they actually do have a very strong connection and a very strong bond with each other, especially like in the episode where they actually have one of the most iconic beheated arguments that I actually have ever heard, and it just feels so realistic that these two actually stood up for themselves. Mostly Rock actually stood up for himself. And I think Revy is actually like one of the most like dangerous female characters in anime. I know there's some like other female characters in anime that are just much worse than Revy, but when I think of like dangerous girls in anime, Revy is one of them. And I was just like, I do not want to mess with this girl, because this girl, not only that she's foul mouthed and dangerous, but she has like a very bad temper. So if you actually get her angry and you become her target, you better watch out, because this girl does not play any games. So yeah, so let's now talk about Rock. Now Rock is one of the main characters who actually was he pretty much like has like a very crappy life in his job because his boss was like pushing him around. And then when he was captive by the Lagoon Company, it changes his life. And since his boss doesn't really care about him, being lost, Rock was like, you know what? Screw my job. I'm gonna be with the Lagoon Company, with this girl, with this African American man, and this hacker guy who has like a Jewish accent, and is basically Jewish. So, but I actually really like Rock, and what's really interesting about Rock's character, not just his character, but he's actually voiced by the same guy who voiced Light Yagami from Death Note, and that I was mind blown, because when I went to New York Comic Con and I was like scrolling around, and I actually no joke, I actually met the English voice actor of Light Yagami from the Death Note anime, and then I didn't notice that he actually voiced Rock in this anime. So when I actually saw one of those like GIF pictures on Instagram, when they were showing us the clip of Rock and Revy, and when I heard that that Rock and Light Yagami had the same voice, like my jaw just dropped, and I was like, what? They're voiced by the same guy? Oh my god, how do I not even notice that? Like, how is that not even possible? Because I didn't know that Rock and Light Yagami had the same voice, and and I was completely mind blown to hear it when I heard everyone says that Rock is Light Yagami from Death Note, and I was like, wow, like I cannot believe my eyes. But yeah, like Rock is a character that you also do feel sorry for, as much just like how you feel so bad for Revy, because these two actually have like a very tragic backstory that is actually very dark, and it is actually very hard hitting, and you actually really feel bad for them, and the bond between them is actually very nice. It's like I said, it's not like they're a couple, even though I wish they were a couple, but and it's also not romantic easily. But they do actually have a very strong bond and a very strong connection to each other, and they actually do share this iconic moment in the show, is where these two actually share a cigarette kiss, which I'm not joking. And at first I was like, oh, are they finally gonna like kiss each other? But they didn't, because like I said, they're not really like a official couple, and it's not like romantic wise, but they do have like a very strong bond with each other. Now, the two characters I want to mention really quick, one guy is Dutch. Now, Dutch, he is the African American man, and he basically is the leader of the Lagoon Company. And he is like, he's actually like this big buff African American man that he's actually, he talks really cool and he talks tough and all that. And then the other character you have is Benny, and Benny is a computer hacker, and he's basically Jewish. And that's really about it about Dutch and Benny, which I'm going to explain to them more often when I get to the criticisms with this anime. So, but there's some like other characters I also want to mention that are also just as memorable as the main characters. The other character you have is Betalaika, who is a Russian lady, and she is also insane. Like she is actually the boss of this Russian group company. And you do not want to mess with this woman at all. You really do not. Like, if you thought Revy was insane, Betalaika is crazy, because her appearance is that she has like scars on her, like burnt scars on her face, and the way how she speaks, it just makes you go like, you do not want to like, you really don't want her to get killed by her, because of like, if I work with her and if I did something messed up, it's probably not gonna go. It's probably not gonna be so. It's not gonna be pretty, because this lady, she does not play any games, and she is actually also just as brutal as Revy is. And we also got the other ones like Roberta, and Roberta has like an umbrella, and then she also like uses that as like a rifle or something, or maybe some other gun. I don't know, but she is also really insane. And all the stuff that she did when she killed those guys in the bar when they're about to go after her was insane, and it was like, yikes! Like, while she doesn't actually have like the same like personality wise like Revy does, but when she actually is in her job into like assassinating everyone, yeah, she is very, very dangerous. And she also has like a brutal like fist fight with Revy, and it was also pretty brutal because of like all the beatings that these two actually took on each other. And this little boy actually was rooting for Roberta to defeat Revy, and while Rock was like, wait a minute, this is not right, like we like somebody's got to stop this, like we can't just like let those two just like hurt each other like that, because it's so hard to watch. And then you also have the other girl who's actually a nun. I think her name is Edna, and she is also like just as crazy as Revy. And she is also like one of the most like dangerous like characters like in this anime. It's just so insane. And I think that's pretty much like all I got to say about these characters, because like there's not much a lot to say about the other side characters that actually appeared in some of the episodes, and then after that we kind of don't really see them again, with the exception of like of Balalaika, when she communicates with Dutch. Now let's move on to like one of the problems I have with this anime, because as much as I want to give this anime a full 10 out of 10, I cannot really do that, because while I do enjoy this anime, I do have some couple problems with the show. So one of my problems I have with the characters is Dutch and Benny. Now, not to say I don't like these characters, don't get me wrong, I like Dutch and Benny, but the problem is that they don't really have like a story development to these characters, other than they're just usually are just there just for being like one of the members of the Lagoon Company. And usually like they don't really have like a backstory, much like Rock, Revy, or even Balalaika has, which is very disappointing, because as I was like watching all the episodes of Black Lagoon, especially in the second season, I was like, I kind of forgot that Dutch and Benny were here. Like, I wish there was like more backstories into them, and which is really weird, because of they're actually are one of the main characters of this anime. So not to have like one of the main characters of this anime to not have a background story, I was like, why would you guys do that? And I felt like that was kind of insulting to one of those main characters in the show. And the other problem I kind of had with this anime is that they actually give them the name Revy Two Hands. Now I do think it's understandable, like why would they call her Two Hands, just because she uses her two guns when she was in action. But I felt like calling her Two Hands doesn't really sound, I mean, it's not terrible, but I just kind of felt like it just doesn't really sound creative, if that makes any sense. I think they would have like called something much better, or actually much more creative than that, because I could actually call Revy like a really cool name that is actually much more better than Two Hands. So but I think that's all I gotta say about the criticisms for this anime, because there's not a lot of things I really dislike about this anime, with the exception that I wish that Dutch and Benny have like a background story for these two characters, because I would have loved to hear about what was Dutch like when he was what was Dutch like in the past before he became the leader of the Lagoon Company, and how does he met Benny or Revy, and same goes for Benny. It's like, how does Benny become like a computer hacker? How does he met Dutch and Revy? It just would have been nice if we actually have more more developed for those two characters, not just Rock and Revy. Because I like the backstories and development for Rock and Revy, which you actually do feel sorry for. Same thing goes for Balalaika. But I would have loved to see like the backstory for both Benny and Dutch, because I think they're also like one of my favorite side characters, or even one of my favorite main characters in anime, especially Dutch, because he's basically like this African American man who is actually cool, and he's basically bald. And the stuff that he does when he was in action with Revy, just by assassinating those Nazi pirates, was really fun to watch. It's like something like something like out of like John Wick or James Bond or The Transporter, you know, before they were a thing. But yeah, but I think overall, I do think that's all I got to say about Black Lagoon. I think it's a really fun show. I think the action is very creative. It's really fast paced. It's got great animation. I love the characters. Revy, Rock, Dutch, and Benny and Bella is insane. And the action, like where Revy just like fights Roberta, is also really fun. And it's just overall just like a really fun action anime that you guys need to watch. You know, probably like watch alone, because of like, this is not an anime for kids. You know, this is not a kids show, because, you know, if you watch this anime when it was on Toonami, there was like a lot of censor beeps on it, like whatever like Revy was swearing, because like there are moments like in each of the episode of this anime, like not just Revy but also one of the other characters, they just pretty much like loose a strain of obscenities, which is crazy. Because this is like the first like anime where I watch where like this show does not shy away from like not just the violence but also the swearing, because of like as all these like R-rated like demographic, it is actually really it's so impossible to change, and you cannot change Black Lagoon. You cannot tone it down, because this is what Black Lagoon really is. Because if someone actually thinks that Black Lagoon needs to tone down the violence and make it PG, then that it would definitely not work, and it would be so insulting to this anime if they do that. But yeah, overall, guys, I think Black Lagoon, like I said, is a really fun action-packed anime, and I actually recommend this anime to fans who really likes really fast-paced action scenes. And if you really like to see Revy just, you know, for the sake of her being a badass, then this is an anime that you guys should watch. And this is also like one of the animes where it really has like really good English dub voice acting, which I really do appreciate, because, you know, I thought the dubbing in this anime is actually excellent, especially the actress who voiced Revy and the guy who voiced Rock, who is also like Yagami from Death Note, who I met in New York Comic Con in person, which he's a really cool guy. And especially the guy who voiced Dutch and the guy who voiced Benny. I think the voice acting is just great, and I just think it really fits very well for these characters. So yeah, I think that's all I got to say about Black Lagoon. So on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to give Black Lagoon an 8.9 out of 10. This is really fun. I really enjoy this anime, and this is actually one of my favorite animes of all time, especially like one of those like female lead action animes that I actually could watch over and over and over and over and over again, and I did not get sick of it. So yeah, I think that's all I gotta say about Black Lagoon. And if you guys want to watch this anime, I think you guys should definitely go check this out on DVD and Blu-ray. And I also heard there was also Roberta's Bloody Trail, which most people will say it's actually a third season of Black Lagoon, which I'm not really sure. But I also heard that it's actually an OVA for Black Lagoon. But I don't have Roberta's Bloody Trail, in case if you guys ask me. But maybe in the future I might go get it, and probably I might go find it on Blu-ray. So yeah, I think that's all I gotta say about this video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed my review for Black Lagoon, and I want to hear from you guys. What did you guys think of Black Lagoon? Did you guys like it? Did you guys hate it? What did you think of the action? What do you think of the animation? Do you like any of these characters, or do you find it boring, or you don't really find it interesting? And if there's other like better action animes that you guys enjoy the most, let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear your opinions. And feel free to subscribe to my channel, hit that like button, and turn on the notifications when I make brand new videos. And stay tuned that I'm going to be doing a comic book review called Superman and Spider-Man, since I haven't really been touching on my comics ever since I want to say during like the beginning of this year, when I did my review for the second season of Naruto and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles crossover. So since I got the Superman Spider-Man crossover comic last week actually, and I thought to myself, you know what, let's review a comic book again, since I haven't really been touching on my comics. So but anyways, guys, I think that's all I got to say for today. So I hope you guys enjoy my review for Black Lagoon. And hope you guys had a great day. Take care of yourselves. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.